A big round of applause for Smriti Irani. The unstoppable Smriti Irani. You know, the unputdownable Smriti Irani. And of course, someone always, Ms. Irani, whenever I meet you, I find that you always surprise. You never cease to surprise. You know, when she turned entrepreneur after a fantastic career in television, many said she couldn't do it, but she proved everyone wrong there. She went there and she did it. She was one of the most successful actors who became a producer. When she fought the elections, I remember, which year was that, Smriti? First
2004.
2004, Chandni Chowk, and they said, it's impossible, she won't get the ticket, she won't give a fight. What a fight she gave, yeah, Ishwarya?
What a fight.
What a fight she gave, right? And then after that, they said, as far as politics is concerned, maybe it's a brush with politics. Remember, they said you won't come back, right? And then she proved them wrong again, and you came back.
Seems I do that for a living, proving people wrong, but...
Then they said that, oh God, they said that Amethi, who's going to fight Amethi? How can, and it was written off, honestly.
A chit of a girl fight Amethi.
A chit of a girl. I won't say opposite whom, but she went and won Amethi in the last elections. And I remember when she won Amethi, there was a period when Ishwarya, we were all on the lookout for Smriti Irani, because the first thing you do after winning, or when you're winning, is that you give an interview. She went into hiding for 12 hours and everybody was running for that exclusive scoop. She won Amethi. Incredible, incredible. And I'm proud to say that people in this country, I have always said this, Smriti, about you, that people say, who's educated and who's not? I have said that in terms of achievement of life, in terms of starting from nothing, and educating yourself to a point where you're a business and political challenger, someone has to learn it from Smriti. But let's give a round of applause because she comes fresh after completing a fantastic course in fintech frameworks from the UC Berkeley, which she's just completed 3 or 4 days back. So she, you know, nobody can say anything about her now, but I'm sure, Ms. Irani, they're going to invent something new for you, aren't they?
I think that it is life's greatest blessings when you have an opportunity to live up to every challenge that is thrown at you. I think that what you described today is just not me, but every tenacious Indian woman. So yes, they said 3 things. They said that अनपढ़ है, अमेठी जीत नहीं सकती, and they did make some disparaging remarks about Moti bhi hai. So I'm happy that I could, in 2-3 years, manage to provide answers for myself. I think, and I say this bluntly, that when you take umbrage to such challenges that are posed to you, you are possibly unmindful of the fact that who you demean is a human entity with a family, with children. And whatever I did because I had these 2 little kids who had absolutely no inputs in the political landscape, who were not party to my professional journey, but who saw their mother demeaned every day. And especially a young daughter who I have been teaching all my life that it doesn't matter how you look, it doesn't matter whether you're popular or not popular. What matters is whether you're a good individual and whether you strive to be your best. Everything that was being hurled at me was the absolute opposite of what I was teaching my child. So for me, it was more an affirmation to my children that irrespective of the insults heaped on you, what makes you a better person is to take every stone that is thrown at you and make yourself a ladder to success.
Is that easier said than done?
Absolutely.
Been tough?
Absolutely.
Been tough? Let me ask you clearly. Been tough? I mean, all
I
this
think
last
you ask any woman
decade, for
today,
example.
and I have said this in an interview once. I was addressing the Institute of Chartered Accountants in India and addressing the issue of female chartered accountants. I had 2 generations of chartered accountants on the screen with me, one who was 40 and above and one who were 30-somethings. And the women who were 40 and above, all of them were wearing absolutely plain saris, trying to diminish their natural glow, trying to make sure that they're without color. And all the young ones, 30-somethings, the late 20s, were bright and chirpy and colorful. And I said to myself that the generation that I'm in, or the one before me, deliberately put down themselves so that their physicality could never attract attention. They wanted attention on their talent. They wanted attention on the fact that they were great professionals. And the fact that this young generation now would never know the pains of striking that balance is a blessing today for female professionals. That you can walk into a place of work and not be judged by how you look, not be judged by your not only appearance, but your demeanor is a great blessing. So my salutations to those women who had to dress down, who had to take away the shine, also that they could blend in the background and be tested as professionals.
That's a great time then to be holding the ministry that you're holding. Because do you get conscious of...
For me, what was heartbreaking is that every 40 to 50-year-old on that panel nodded. That there was an acceptance that, yes, I had to live life like this as a professional because I wanted to be counted as a professional, not by my gender. And today it is my greatest privilege that I serve in a ministry where, yes, gender is the quotient that I need to propagate, but I am blessed more because I'm a part of a government that says that issues of women cannot be limited to only one department. The government as a whole needs to serve the cause of women and children in the country. Predominantly so children because they are not voters. We always talk about the future of our country, but they never get a voice. And for the first time, we have a government which says that the voice of the child is as important as that of a woman or a man or an elderly citizen. And I think today, when I look at the landscape of governance, with women at the fulcrum of administrative decisions, my job gets easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think, we may not, be the home of feminism in the sense that, theoretically, they may say America was, but well, I believe...
I would on one issue
can I complete?
digress.
Can I
No, I would not do justice to our history together if I let you complete. But I should say today, as all fellow Indians sit in the audience, we are celebrating the Constitution Day today. And we need to recognize that ours was the only country when we adopted that constitution, and our preamble says we gave it to ourselves. We gave the right to vote to women as well as men. The United States of America, United Kingdom took over 100 years in their democracies to give that right to vote to women. And that we adopted our constitution equally as men and women, I think says much about our nation state, says much about our culture.
No, absolutely. In fact, that's exactly the point I was making, that countries which have claimed to be the theoretical base of feminism have not even approved the Equal Rights Amendment in their countries for years. The difficulties that even women activists have had in the US, getting the basic premise of real equality for women in terms of wages and elsewhere in practice. My question to you is, this is an economic summit. A broad question to you, Ms. Irani. 65 crore women, 49% of the country's population. What can you consciously do? Do we need to do something consciously? A, what can we consciously do? Are we doing something consciously to propel women, to propel our economy?
I think one of our greatest contribution as societies towards women in our country today would be if we can give particular focus to women in maths and science. We need to recognize that while we expand our technological universe, we have fewer women who own that technology. We've become one of the largest consumers of technology, but the truth of our country is that when you come to grade 8, you find that there are less number of young girls who are mathematically or scientifically inclined. When we see our student population go to grade 12, we celebrate the fact that girls outshine boys at the board results. But when we see their progression into institutes of higher learning, we see that numbers fall, especially in technology institutions. So if we need to put our strength behind something, we need to strengthen the capacities of young girls and women in the field of science and technology. Secondly, I feel that since it's an economic summit, we need to be more mindful when we sit on evaluations. Because if you look at the corporate landscape of our country, you will see those nominal women in boardrooms. You will see nominal number of women in positions where money is accrued more. You will see more number of women in administrative positions, as though that becomes our flag to bear and say, well, we are equal opportunity companies. So if you want to truly give women a partnership role in management and corporate leadership, then it cannot be reduced to lip service.
Yep. I actually completely agree with you, and I think this message should go out to all those in the investing community, those who are running corporates, big boardrooms. I think there was a recent McKinsey study which said that we could add about 800 billion to our GDP by 2025. That would be roughly 18 to 19%, simply by providing not more, equal opportunities for women in all sectors. Just that. And we don't think about it. We could add 18% to our GDP simply by, in practice, giving equal opportunities to women.
What is, Arnab, more alarming for us is there is a study which is available publicly which talks about a relationship between the economic capacities of a woman and her right or ownership of property and domestic violence. It has been proven through research that women who face domestic violence necessarily are not unemployed. Women who are employed, women who have a big fat salary check do face domestic violence. But the incidences of domestic violence are lessened for those women who own property. So the next issue on which I would like a convergence of public effort and narrative is ownership of property. If you ask, and I'd done this experiment myself in close to 10 cities of our country with some economic leaders, and I'd gone to 10 cities with a group of women who are celebrated in corporate India, and I sat in a room just like this and I asked them, well, who does your taxes? My second question to them was, how many shares have you bought of a company that you wanted to invest in without asking any male member in your family? The third question I asked them was, did you buy a property because you liked a property because it made investment sense to you? Or did you just sign a check because everybody converged and said, हाँ ये वाला घर लेते हैं, लेकिन jointly लेते हैं? How many of us sat down, our daughters, and said, well, your first investment will not be an ornament, but let's put down some money for you to buy a home which you can singularly own. I think if we can start shifting the narrative to those issues, we will truly then celebrate women as equal partners. Because it's not essential for a female to only have a salary check. It is also essential for her to be in control of her own money.
Okay, so now I'd like you to speak both from an anecdotal, personal, as well as your ministerial perspective. And at the first ever G20 ministerial conference on women's empowerment, I think it happened in August, recently, I think 25th, 27th August, you spoke about Mission Shakti and how that, how you can make women equal partners in nation building. I've been trained as a sociologist and a social anthropologist, so I am of a firm view that unless you enrich the demographic contribution of every part of our country, then you cannot be socially cohesive, and unless you are socially cohesive, you cannot gain or harness your economic strength. A very broad principle, Ms. Irani, I don't think society and economy can be separated. You can't look at things through a cold lens. So, okay, so here's the question. From your experience being an entrepreneur, what are the toughest things for a woman when she enters into the world of business? Okay, so you've been you were India's #1 television personality, most popular. And then you became an entrepreneur, you became a business person, You know the difficulties more than others. And now link that up to this big vision where, boom, 10 years later, you're talking about, at a national level, bringing women on an equal stage, just a level playing field. Anecdotal, and now your vision. Just link it up and give us a broad perspective of
well,
how
one of the greatest challenges a woman faces is having someone to believe in her idea. That's the crux of the problem. It's only when you have belief in a female's idea and not be skewed by your own gender narrative or bias that can you surely stand up in support of her. I have never met a female entrepreneur who wants an entourage of supporters. I've always met female entrepreneurs who have said, even if that one investor believes, that's good enough for me. So when you're talking about the VC landscape today, one of the other challenges is that investments in female-led enterprises is comparatively less as compared to male-led enterprises, which means that today in the VC landscape, you have investors wanting to take a risk on a male-led enterprise as compared to a female-led enterprise.
Institutional bias? Or?
Absolutely. There are enough research material available today to say that, which means a VC would still want to take a risk on a project with a man rather than a female. That is true today as it was 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago. What is changing is institutional financing of projects. And one of the issues which actually highlight how change is now being manifested is the Mudra Yojana. Mudra Yojana, when it came to the Indian political and administrative landscape, did not have a gender skew to it. It was equally applicable to all genders. The only emphasis was that if you want to start a small business or if you want to populate a small business, then you need to approach a bank with a business plan and assure the bank that your plan will be successful in terms of implementation and that you will pay back. What I celebrate is that 70% of beneficiaries of Mudra Yojana were women. Now, this sounds very simplistic when I say it, but look at the struggle behind it, which means that 17 crore 60 lakh women in this country did the paperwork that could assure a bank that their plan is worthy of support. Collateral or no collateral. But the fact that 17 crore 60 lakh women in your country sat down, filled that paperwork, went to a bank, engaged with them, and got that loan. And today, microfinance companies and other financial institute researchers can quantify that women are good investments because 99% of the loans taken are always paid back. We are better investments.
Ma'am, but when you talk about women and when you say this कि 19 करोड़ महिलाओं ने या 17 करोड़ महिलाओं ने एक आम भारतीय महिला की अगर बात करें, if you talk about a normal Indian woman, if she's not a part of any business.
There is nothing normal about an Indian woman. We are tenacious.
Okay.
We are hardworking. We may be complex.
Completely.
But we have to take additional efforts. I am sorry, Aishwarya, I am differing. लेकिन एक हिंदुस्तानी महिला को कई पड़ावों को पार करना पड़ता है अपने लिए एक आधार स्तंभ बनाने के लिए और खुद अपने समुदाय का आधार बनने के लिए.
बिल्कुल. और जब आप
ये don't write us off
as just a normal. Absolutely, point taken. तो मैं ये कहता हूँ जब आप ये कहते हैं और जब ये बड़े-बड़े बिजनेस लीडर्स आते हैं, बड़े-बड़े लोग आते हैं, बड़े-बड़े नंबर्स देते हैं, बिलियन ट्रिलियन, तो जब एक हिंदुस्तानी महिला अपने घर में बैठी है, वो अपने परिवार को देखती है, उसको इकोनॉमिकली वायबल, उसको इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट करने के लिए, आपने कहा मुद्रा योजना, आप शक्ति योजना की बात करती हैं, वो जब वहाँ बैठी है तो उसको ये लगता है कि उसका जो परिवार है वो उसकी दुनिया है.
बैठे हैं कि वो घर पे बैठी है.
सॉरी, आई डिडंट. वो कह रहे हैं कि अगर वो अपने जहाँ है
तो
उसके लिए उसका घर.
अर्नब जी कह रहे हैं वो सोशियोलॉजिस्ट हैं, इसीलिए मैं कह रही हूँ कि चुनौती की शुरुआत यहीं से है कि जब आप कल्पना कर रहे हैं हिंदुस्तान की एक महिला के बारे में, तो आपकी कल्पना में वो महिला बेचारी घर पर बैठी है, इंतजार कर रही है कब आप आएंगे, कब आप उसका उद्धार करेंगे.
मैं नहीं कोई उद्धार नहीं, उद्धार मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ क्योंकि आपकी वो मिनिस्ट्री है, कोई किसी की उद्धार करने की जरूरत नहीं. हर इंडियन, एवरी इंडियन इज केपेबल इनफ, ये मेरा सोच है. लेकिन मैं ये कहता हूँ मैम, बड़े-बड़े लोग बड़े-बड़े नंबर्स देते हैं.
पसीना क्यों आ रहा है?
नहीं, मेरे को एसी की जरूरत है.
Aishwarya, aren't you relieved that she's not a television news anchor? You know, you're just having a bad day. You know, she's in form. Aishwarya, it's okay. Aishwarya is just having
not yet. Or no, there's still time to it, you know.
Okay, so you're right. Okay, carry on.
I have
Just don't
time.
score any more self
Go ahead.
goals, Aishwarya. Please.
Don't rescue him, Arnab. I am one woman and there are two male anchors, ladies and gentlemen. जी बोले.
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, तो आपने कहा, मेरा कहने का मतलब सिर्फ इतना है कि जब बड़े बड़े लोग आके बड़े बड़े नंबर्स की बात करते हैं, तो हिंदुस्तान के छोटे से गांव में या शहर में या आप मेट्रोपॉलिटन की बात कर रहे हो, जब वहाँ पे बैठी हुई महिलाएं और जो यंग महिला हैं वो भी, और जो बुजुर्ग हैं, जो बड़ी हैं, जिन्होंने अपने जीवन काल में बहुत मुसीबतें देती हैं, वो सब, उनके लिए कई बार ये होता है कि उनका जो डायरेक्ट फैमिली है वो उनके लिए सब कुछ हो जाता है, जो उनका डायरेक्ट परिवार है वो उनके लिए सब कुछ हो जाता है, वो इकोनॉमिक्स, पैसा, डेवलपमेंट सब उनके लिए चाहते हैं, तो उनको शक्ति प्रदान करने के लिए।
इसलिए नहीं हो ऐश्वर्या जी, क्योंकि आज अगर आप संवैधानिक पदों पर और प्रशासनिक पदों पर महिलाओं के बारे में परिचर्चाओं को देखें अथवा विशेषज्ञ जब उनके कार्यशैली पर टिप्पणी करते हैं उसको देखें, तो ध्यान में आएगा, और ये प्रूवन है कि जो हम ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडाइसिस की बात करते हैं, जहाँ जहाँ प्रशासनिक पद पर या संवैधानिक पद पर, राजनीतिक पद पर महिलाएं हैं, वहाँ पर उनका योगदान शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में, स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में और उनकी प्रशासनिक जो एबिलिटी जिसको आप कहते हैं वो ऐसी रहती है कि आप धीरे धीरे देखते हैं कि वो एसडीजीज के इंडाइसिस पे मापदंड बढ़ने लगता है। तो ये मान्यता कि एक महिला अपनी परिधि में मात्र अपने परिवार को ही आंकती है, ये सही नहीं है। हमारा सौभाग्य ये है कि हमारे देश की एक परंपरा रही है कि जो भोजन का आशीर्वाद देती है वो अन्नपूर्णा है। अपने परिवार के लिए नहीं देती, ब्रह्मांड के लिए देती है, सृष्टि के लिए देती है। जो ज्ञान देती है वो सरस्वती है, अपने परिवार को नहीं देती, ज्ञान का अर्जन पूरे विश्व के लिए करती है। और जो अर्नब जी ने कहा कि हिंदुस्तान के बारे में जब फेमिनिज्म की चर्चा होती है तो शायद हमको पाश्चात्य देशों की दृष्टि में ये कहा जाता है कि आपको फेमिनिज्म सिखाने की ज़रूरत है, लेकिन अगर आप सोशियोलॉजिकल और एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल दृष्टिकोण से देखें तो हिंदुस्तान की एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल अथवा सोशियोलॉजिकल जो महिला केंद्रित चीज़ें हैं वो कब पाश्चात्य देशों में चर्चा का विषय बने। आप क्योंकि उस विषय को पढ़ चुके हैं, चाहे वो न्यू लिबरलिज्म हो, चाहे वो सोशियोलॉजिकल एक बैकग्राउंड हो, हमारा मात्र देश नहीं लेकिन पूरा एशियाई जो समुदाय है उसमें महिला की भूमिका कभी अंग्रेजों के सामने चर्चा में आई नहीं। आप देख लें कितने राज्यों में, राष्ट्रों में आज़ादी की जंग हुई। हम 75वां साल मना रहे हैं अपने देश की आज़ादी का। ये एक देश है हिंदुस्तान जिसमें एक औरत अपने बच्चे को पीठ पर कपड़े से बांधती है, घोड़े पर चढ़ती है, तलवार निकालती है और मर्द उसके पीछे खड़े होते हैं मैदान जंग में उतरने के लिए, और किसी देश के इतिहास में ये नहीं।
जी बिल्कुल।
तो हमारे देश में ये रहा है, लेकिन मेरा ये भी मानना है कि महिला उत्थान के लिए सार्वजनिक बार बार पुरुषों का अपमान करना ज़रूरी नहीं है। हम सब मिलकर चल सकते हैं और हमारे समुदाय में, राष्ट्र में, समाज में, चिंतन में जो बदलाव लाना है मिलकर ला सकते हैं। क्योंकि आज अगर हम एक छोटे से कानून की बात करें, मैटरनिटी की बात करें, बेनिफिट्स देने वाले 26 वीक के, वो कोई महिला प्रधानमंत्री नहीं है, पुरुष है। लाल किले की प्राचीर से सैनिटरी पैड की बात करने वाला एक पुरुष प्रधानमंत्री है। मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन ऑफ प्रेगनेंसी 1960 से ये चर्चा हो रही है हमारे देश में, उस कानून को लागू करने वाला एक पुरुष प्रधानमंत्री है। और उस कानून के ऊपर, अबॉर्शन राइट्स के ऊपर आज मैं चुनौती देती हूँ, आप अमेरिका में चर्चा कर लीजिए, वहाँ पर झगड़ा हो जाएगा। मेरे देश के महिलाओं और पुरुषों ने मिलकर उसका स्वागत किया। ये मेरे राष्ट्र की सबसे बड़ी, मुझे लगता है, एक उपलब्धि है। That we look at issues from a prism of humanity. Yes, I do not say that we are in a state of utopia, everything is perfect. But what I can be assured by is that we are united in our pursuit of that perfection, in law, in governance, in society.
Right. So, one quick question here. Have we done enough? We have elected 78 MPs to the Lok Sabha. The country is elected. When there were 11 ministers, after the last reshuffle in the cabinet, everybody said, biggest ever number. We've done a lot. We are good at patting ourselves on the back. So question is, have we done enough?
There are too many people punching us in the face.
Pardon me?
There are too many people punching us in the face. So do not deride yourself if Indians pat themselves on the
No,
back.
I actually look at it the other way around. I'm
Because
saying that
when the pandemic hit the global stage, everybody globally said, how will 1 billion plus Indians survive?
Correct.
We survived. We made sure that 800 million Indians received food grains till March 2022.
True.
We survived. We last night had 120 crore vaccinations given, which is the highest across the world. We survived. We produced that vaccine.
Yeah. So,
We had village populations and urban centers come together. And when you talk about women, 6.6 million COVID warriors, nurses, Anganwadi workers, Asha Bahus, doctors, all women.
yeah.
So pat yourself on the back because your country deserves it.
So-
Indians deserve it and be proud of it.
So no, if I can complete my question, Mr. Irani, because it's problematic. It's the second time you've
One
interrupted
woman,
me.
2 male anchors.
Well, I mean, okay. So I think, shall I, with your permission?
Please. Aishwarya has this lovely smile on her
Aishwarya and I are
face saying,
thinking, I think Ms. Irani is just enjoying this session. I think she's, after she became a minister, she's not coming on my debates. Wouldn't you like to see her more often on our debates here? Yeah?
Stopped coming on this.
She stopped coming, so she should come more on our debates. But right now, she's, because there's nobody from any other party here, she's taking it out on us.
No, I say bring it on.
That's what's happening here.
I think there's nobody in this audience who would say that I will shy away from a debate from any other opposition party. Is there anybody here? A particular opposition party, to be precise. No problem.
Yeah. No, I said we've not done enough. I feel we should not look at the numbers. No, allow me. 11 ministers, very good. 78 MPs elected, fantastic. But if you look at a percentage, we are 145th or something out of 193 countries, a percentage of women in our elected legislature. So I am saying we've not done enough. To take this further, when there was the vocal to local initiative of the Prime Minister, I think around Diwali, just before that, you started a slogan, Nari se Kharidari. So obviously you felt that there was a gap and that people needed to more consciously support women entrepreneurs, right? So my quick question to you is, how much time do we give ourselves to bridge the gap? You must have kept some number in this ministry, in this term. How much can we achieve? How much more do we need to do? Mr. Gadkari, before you, is in a great hurry to quickly build infrastructure. Women, economy, contribution. How quickly can we bridge the gap? What are the timelines you're working on? Give us some sense of that.
In the year 2017, the Prime Minister pronounced the setting up of one-stop crisis centers in the country. In 3 years, we made sure that over 700 districts had a manifested real one-stop crisis center where women can get support from medical legal personnel, support from the police, and ensure that their journey to judicial, arrangements is made much better, though it's an unfortunate terminology to use given that women who come to such centers are either domestically violated or raped or sexually harassed. I can also here say that for the first time in the history of our country, we are real-time tracking close to 9 crore beneficiaries, children, pregnant and lactating women, so that across 14 lakh Anganwadis, the government services that are to be delivered to them can be offered to them, and then their responses to that delivery of governance can be ascertained, mapped, and all the flaws or challenges in the system can be addressed in collaboration with state governments. This year's budget saw a pronouncement that districts which have a high crime burden will see an additional one-stop center to be established. We also brought about a change in the POCSO Act, in the Juvenile Justice Act, to make it more robust, make people more accountable in the administrative structure. When you ask me, Arnab, are we doing enough? I will say here that yes, we are not a stagnant, static state. We are an ever-evolving nation. We gave ourselves a constitution 72 years ago, but even that was not relegated to the archives. It's a living, breathing document. It's seen an amendment over 105 times, which again is a manifestation of the fact that the will of the people is not static. It evolves. So when you tell me how that evolution takes place, I had the privilege of drafting the National Education Policy Base Foundation paper, which has been dedicated to the country after a gap of 30 years. And if you look at that policy documentation, for the first time, the National Education Policy talks about a gender inclusive fund, which means it's not good enough to just talk about bringing inclusivity in our educational systems. You need to put money behind it, and that's exactly what the education policy does. For the first time, I had the privilege of seeing the Prime Minister put in additional resources behind female scientists and innovators. And I think that's the need of the hour. We have the Digital India movement, which was pronounced, and the Prime Minister, when he pronounced it, there was no COVID, and many in the opposition actually hurled many an accusation and slurs at him and said, what is the need for a Digital India movement? I've had the privilege of witnessing over 2 crore Indian women get digitally literate. And when did it benefit us? We saw the benefits of it in the pandemic. Now, when we talk about maternity leaves and 26 weeks that are to be given to women, I remember a time when work from home was a death knell for female professionals. That was saying that, okay, your career is over, you can go home, you want to look after a child, well, that's it. You can never come back into the mainstream of working again. The pandemic, in fact, brought about a gender balance in the work from home concept. Suddenly, men were also working from home. So there is, if you say that will we evolve as a society, our needs change, our circumstances change, the answer irrefutably is a yes. But what I also assure you that you have a responsive government. So when you talk about Nari Se Kharidari, for the first time when the Prime Minister pronounced the GEM portal, there was gender responsive buying by the government, where PSUs were told and GEM portals through which state governments, government institutions, organizations, everybody was told at least 2% of your buy has to be from female entrepreneurs. That was never done in our country. So when we pronounced Nari Se Kharidari, it was an appeal to citizens at large. And I had a recent interaction with the policy head of Facebook. They said we had 38 crore impressions. And that was just one thought, one tweet, one Facebook post, one Instagram post, appealing to fellow Indians. That if you go turn a corner in your market and you see a female enterprise, can you support her? Not because she wants to give you some wares which don't measure up in terms of quality, but she is selling quality stuff. Please be conscious when you buy from her. 38 crores impressions only on Facebook. People took that seriously, went out and supported, not because they were giving a female a hand-me-down, but because she was delivering quality stuff at competitive prices, and they were happy to support that.
Right. I think you have made an extremely compelling case. But I would appeal,
because you have economic leaders coming to this summit.
Yep.
We have far too many times said, let's help women with small businesses. And we all know economies that are robust, which reign the global roost, are economies where small businesses have become mid-sized. And mid-sized businesses have become large enterprises. And I think it's time to put money behind those small enterprises led by women who have potential and make them mid-sized.
I mean, you've seen the Nykaa blockbuster IPO is a living example of that. I think, Ms. Irani, you made a very, very compelling and thought-provoking case at today's session on making sure that in our economic targets, women in investing, my takeaway, investing, investors, boardrooms, operational roles, including in the distribution of credit, and providing employment and ownership of property. If I look at the 6 or 7 things that you have said, you've really set a charter for what India Inc. can do to make sure that what McKinsey spoke about, adding 18% to our workforce, is overachieved. So I think there's a lot to think about in this session. I thank you. I know you have a very important meeting to go to, government meeting, but it's been wonderful to see you again. A round of applause again for Smriti Irani. Thank you. Thank you.